So here we're going to talk about the quotient rule. The quotient rule is very similar to the product rule. You have two functions that can be divided by each other. We use this formula over here. So essentially it's just the function in the denominator multiplied by the derivative of the function in the numerator minus the function in the numerator times the derivative of the function in the denominator all over the function in the denominator square. And you can even just kind of break it down further by saying the lower function multiplied by the derivative of the higher function minus the higher function times the derivative of the lower function over the lower function square. So we have a few examples over here to the right. I'll just go over real quick. So here we have a function of x, and then we have two functions divided together that could be derived. So we have 2 cosine x in the numerator and then 3x squared minus x on the denominator. So we'll just go ahead and just follow along on our formula here. So let's just say f prime. So g of x in this case, for our lower function, is going to be 3x squared. So we'll just write that out as 3x squared minus x. And now we need to multiply that by the derivative of the higher function, which in this case is 2 cosine x. And we know that the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x, so we'll put negative 2 sine x. And we'll continue to follow along in the second half here. So this case we just use our function on the numerator, so 2 cosine x. And then we multiply that by the derivative of our lower function here, which is 6x minus 1. And that's going to be all over our lower function squared. So in this case, we'll just write 3x squared minus x squared. Obviously, that could be expanded out a little bit, but we'll just leave it in this format for our answer. For our next one here, g prime of x. Once again, we'll just go down the line of our formula. You can use either one, whichever one you're more comfortable with. So in this case, starting with this one here, our lower function is going to be just the sine of x. And then we're going to multiply that by the derivative of our higher function, which is 3x minus 2. And then the derivative of that is just going to be 3. And then going back to just our higher function, which is 3x minus 2. And then we're going to multiply that by the derivative of this one, our lower function, which the derivative of sine x is just cosine of x. And that's going to be all over our denominator squares. In this case, it'll just be sine square of x. Now for this last h of x function, we have these constant values here of ax minus b and then cx minus d. Starting with our lower function, we'll write that out. So we have cx minus d. And then we'll multiply that by the derivative of our higher function, or our numerator. In this case, it's just going to be a, since that's the only one with an actual variable. Now we're going to write our higher function. And multiply that by the derivative of our lower function, which in this case will just be c. and that's just going to be over our lower function squared. So we have cx minus d squared. So that's pretty much it. Like the product rule, it's pretty straightforward. Just be sure to look out for two functions that can be derived that are divided together, and you know you're going to use the quotient rule. And then another thing is just, unlike the product rule where you can kind of rearrange which order you're multiplying your functions, it's imperative that you follow these steps for our formulas here. So you want to be able to multiply low times high, the derivative, minus the higher function times the derivative of the lower function.